And talking about spokespersons that are not talking to you, Frank, you have certainly filed many rights to know.
Yes.
And I don't believe that anybody has this information, but you moved ahead a little bit, and the Taxpayers Association, and I believe you filed.
On Thursday, we filed an action in Luzerne County Court of Common Pleas against the city of Wilkes-Barre seeking a review of a final determination we received in requesting documents from 2009 from the Department of Revenue to the city of Wilkes-Barre, in where the city paid the Department of Revenue over $5,000 in fines. We want to know why.
Sure.
And every time we've asked what generated the city to issue that check, or what caused you to issue that check, they provide us a copy of the check and say that's all we have. Well, that's not good enough. You must have received a bill. You must have received a letter, something. And we know what this is. This letter was printed it wasn't printed in its entirety, but reference to the letter was printed by the Citizen's Voice, claiming that this letter urged the city back in 2009 or warned the city that they were not permitted to put any liquid fuels into any vehicle that did not bear municipal plates. So
now this is going back to our
Gasgate.
Friend, the King.
This is going back to Gasgate, is where this is.
Yeah, with that bulletin board that you guys put up.
The
billboard with.
So we just want the document where, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, if the Department of Revenue told you in 2009 you can't do something, and you continued to do that something, that proves full well that you knew what you were doing was wrong.
And a little bit more on your on your lawsuit, right?
Well, the OOR relied, in making their determination, they relied wholly on an affidavit submitted by the city administrator, Marie McCormick, where the city administrator claims to have called the Department of Revenue, no reference to who she spoke to or anything like that in her affidavit, just that she spoke with someone at the Department of Revenue, and they claim they don't have the letter either. So therefore, no letter exists. However, I also submitted an affidavit when I got a copy of hers that says I spoke with Elizabeth Prestel, the press secretary of the Department of Revenue, and she confirmed on the phone with me, knowing who I was from the Independent Gazette. She said, I do have a copy of the letter. However, I can only provide that letter to the taxpayer directly, in this case, the city of Wilkes-Barre. So the city has to request a letter from them, and my right to know request was to the city for that letter, and they claim they don't have it and that they can't get it. Well, they are in constructive possession of the letter. They can request it from Elizabeth. They can get it, and that's what our lawsuit seeks. And also, we submitted a legal brief in our lawsuit that claims that the affidavit that Marie McCormick submitted is erroneous in the fact that she didn't mention who she spoke to, number one, and that this is not the first time that Mrs. McCormick has submitted an affidavit, and where we later find out the claims made by McCormick's affidavit are not entirely true. I call your attention to a 2002 case where a private citizen, the average Joe, sought credit cards from the city of Wilkes-Barre. I remember. And the city said, hey, we don't have those credit cards. In fact, they never existed. Here's a letter from the bank. And they claim they don't have them either. And that's what they submitted, was an affidavit by Mrs. McCormick saying, hey, those credit card statements never existed. However, the citizen filed a lawsuit similar to what we're doing, and it was discovered through the course of that lawsuit that not only did the credit cards exist, but they contained information the city didn't want out.
So once again, taking it to the next level, we will have something up on our website. I believe you're going to do a press release for all the press, but they might jump on this now. It might be in the paper sooner, as usual. Yeah. So the Independent Gazette
breaks the story. Right.
We're going to take a break when we